Most people train to look better. A smaller group trains to feel better. But the elite, they train to perform when it matters most. Because when you're stepping into a cage, when you're competing at the highest level, when your body is your business, there's no room for guesswork. And today's guest is the guy behind that level of preparation. Phil Daru isn't just a trainer, he's a performance architect. He's worked with world champions, UFC fighters, and elite athletes across multiple disciplines, helping them build strength, speed, durability, and the kind of conditioning that doesn't break under pressure. But what makes this conversation different is we're not just talking about elite fighters. We're breaking down how high performers should actually train, why most people are overtraining and under-recovering, and how to build a body that performs at a high level in business, in life, and under stress. Because at the end of the day, your body is either your greatest asset or your biggest liability. And today, we're going to show you how to make it your advantage. Let's get into it. Phil, welcome to the show.
20 years ago, I was in residency. They started getting ER docs that wanted to be part of like MMA or NFL. So I was one of the original ones that they brought in.
Okay.
And so then that's where I saw the space of like longevity and optimization. Cause I was like, man, the athletes get the world, the high performers through executive programs. And then I'm in the emergency department. I'm like, where's the disconnect here? So we left and created Carbon World Health.
Okay.
So it's a one-stop shop, fitness, health, and beauty.
Love
so
it.
on the training side, we have unlimited personal training.
Okay.
But you don't make schedules. You show up, we train you. And then if you need hormones, we got you. If you need cryo, red light, we got you. And then my wife's like, if your body looks good, your face has to look good too. So we do Botox, facial, we do all that stuff. So that's where then it's been like in all these different spaces.
Yeah. Have you seen like a big influx in the cosmetic side?
Yeah. And so Botox, like Allergan, the company, came out and they're like, how do you have so many guys on this? It's because of the training, right? Because they're coming in looking at hormones for workout. But we're like, yeah, you could. And then same with females, because they came in with Botox and cosmetic stuff, now we pitch the training.
Gotcha.
Now we pitch the hormones.
It seems like that's how it goes, man. Like they come in for the cosmetic and then they leave trying to be optimized physically.
Correct.
And the opposite with the males, right? They want to be optimized, they want to feel good, and then they want to look good.
Correct. And
I've
it's just
seen
kind of, and then for us, it's like you can come in on both sides.
Yeah.
And that was the idea. Guys are going to be like, I don't want to go into a med spa, right? Like, and I don't want that space.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But if you come to the fitness, they're like, oh, wait,
what do you call it? You call it performance side? Or is it,
wellness facility and then performance.
Yeah.
We'll do. Because then that triggers like a different mindset.
Well, you're looking at it like it's health performance.
Right.
So that's where I kind of transitioned myself towards, working in the combat sports space for 16 years, 17 years now. I'm like, once they're done with fighting, what else happens, right? They beat their bodies up for years and years and years. I'm a testament to that because I had traumatic brain injury. I've had tons of concussions. That's why I stopped fighting. I fought for 8 years. And I was like, man, it was a time where, I had a fight. I was actually 2 weeks out from my last fight. And I was on a winning streak. I was feeling good. I was like, man, I'm on top of the world. When you get a win, you're like, all right, I'm on top of the world. I was 2 weeks out and we were going through just a regular routine, just drilling session. Wasn't a hard sparring session. My teammate came down, did a spinning back kick, hit me in the back of the head, and I was concussed. Now, I've been rocked before,
so you kind of like,
I was like, oh, okay, it's nothing.
Yeah.
And then it never went away. It never subsided. And then from there, I'm like, I got all the symptoms. I'm nauseous, everything's spinning. So I went to the neurologist and they ran some tests and they were like, they started to see those beta amyloid plaques kind of build up. And he was like, man, if you don't stop, by the time you're 50, you're gonna have Alzheimer's. And I was like, damn. And even then, I go, maybe I can ink out maybe a couple more years. You know what I'm saying? Like I was in a good space, and at the time I was owning the facility. I had a gym. I've owned my own gym since I was 22 years old. So I had a lot going on. And then my son was about to be born. So I had my first baby and I was trying to go back to get my PhD. So I was tying it all off. You'll notice that with me. I start tying things off. You know what I'm saying? But I was like, man, this isn't gonna be good long term. And I talked to my coach, who's been with me since I started MMA, Dean Thomas. I don't know if you're familiar.
I know.
So I got on the phone with him because he's really the only one that can talk sense into me. Because obviously I look at him as a father figure and as a mentor. And I was like, man, listen, I'm probably aging him with the father figure thing. 37, so good Dean. Hope you like that. But, you know, he was like, man, listen, if it was your knee or your back even, we could work around it, but it's your brain. You don't really want to work around that. You know, you have a thriving business, you have a good niche going on, you're really good at coaching, let's go all in on that. And so for him to say that, being who he was at the time for me, I'll go, all right, then I'll set my, I guess my retirement, right, in the sport as a competitor, at least in MMA. And so what do? Like you go, all right, well, what's next? Because my entire life from that point was all fighting. It was 2-a-days, 3-a-days. What do I do? And so I put myself all in on the coaching side. I really engulfed myself in that aspect of the training. And a lot of fighters don't know how to do that. That's the biggest issue. So with my guys that are in the UFC that have made good money, not great, but good money, and have created some star power, they're like, well, that's my identity. What do I do now that I'm not an actual competitive fighter? And so they stay in too long. And then obviously they start losing fights. They start getting more damage, taking more damage. They start to transition into other sports like bare knuckle, even worse. Right? I see it all the time. And the problem there is that they don't have that transition that is healthy. And then eventually they go, well, I need to put my health as a priority, not performance from a sport perspective.
Correct.
Because I do think like performance has many terms, I guess you would say. It has many different ways of going about doing it. But when I look at performance, I'm looking at as a whole, from a longevity perspective. You got to be able to perform not only as a competitive athlete, but as a human being. And so that's where like now I'm starting to get into taking my guys from where I coached them at, because I've been with them, let's just say 7-8 years. Now they're transitioning out of the fight game. What do we do next? Well, let's optimize your health. And so that's where I'm at now.
Yeah, no, and that's interesting. That's kind of a couple of questions I had for you was, and you spoke to it, right? But what made it that you think you were able to transition that mindset? Because as an athlete, and a lot of the UFC guys that we worked with, they come to me because they trust me as a doc. But I also tell them straight up, like as a doctor, I'm not going to clear you. But more importantly, it's because I see the long term, right? And then it's like, how do I leverage that fame? Because I always tell them, let's say you had an illustrious career, they're always gonna remember your last fights, right? Like, and if you're just in there for a paycheck and you're getting beat up, people are gonna be like, man, I forgot you were awesome. Like, you're just there. But that's a hard pitch, right? Because that is your identity. So like in that process, what do you think made you be able to switch from I'm gonna coach versus not? Because a lot of people would think, well, you're the best in the sport. Why can't you coach? Why isn't that an outlet out, right? But not everyone does it.
No, it's the feeling you get when you step in there. You can't really explain it. And so you try to get that back each and every time. And I tried. I tried to do other sports. I did strength sports for a long time after I got out of fighting. So I did powerlifting, strongman. I even did a bodybuilding show. Right? Just try to do something that was competitive, but wasn't gonna put my body in danger, like obviously from a concussion standpoint. And in that time frame though, I started to understand different modalities of training, different methodologies of training, because I put myself in it. So I think that once I stopped really focusing on that was the goal, and I started transitioning my goals and my vision to a new perspective, it allowed me to fully get out of that. Another thing that helped me was that I still stayed in the actual sport, but now I'm helping others. And I've always been a good teammate. Like, I've always been a captain of all my teams. I've been a leader in that sense. So it was a better transition for me because I wasn't as selfish as a fighter, which again, you need to have that if you want to be at the highest level. So me being very selfless, it was an easier way to go about doing that and still be a part of the sport and have, you know, some level of insight when it comes down to it. And I can still live vicariously through them, in a sense, I think the biggest thing was when I was starting back at American Top Team, when I worked with HQ, and I started working with guys like Dustin and the bigger names, I started to see like the ramifications and what I could contribute to help them evolve and be the best that they can be at the highest level. So then it became really important to me to hone in on my craft. So I was all in. And I never really was all in on the coaching side until that point.
And then you have to be all in, right? Because otherwise people will sense it on there. So how do you, I know you talked a lot of, especially in top performers, right? You have to be mentally there because you see a lot of people that are gifted athletically or physically within their mind. And you're like, yeah, that's not that. So how do you teach that, or how do you coach that, especially with guys that are like alpha males, right? Like, how are you going to tell them you need more of that?
It's trust. It's trust and buy-in. You know, in the beginning, like, I always go through a kind of like a 5-part framework that I have. First thing is an assessment process. And that assessment process isn't just physical, it is a psychological evaluation. I want to see who they are as a person and get to know their family and their inner circle, because that's going to dictate how I can get in and show them their why and improve on motivating them to some degree. These guys are naturally motivated in a lot of ways.
Right.
But every now and again, when it gets monotonous, when you're going in training camp and you're doing this every day, twice a day, you need something to remind you of why you're doing what you're doing. And sometimes that takes me to reiterate that.
Right.
Right. So I look at it first, have a conversation, get them to know that you want to help them improve. You're there to help them, and you're on the team for a reason. You're not there for your own selfishness, because you wouldn't be a coach if you were. Right. So I'm looking at it from that angle. And then as I start to develop some type of camaraderie with that individual, they see how much I know, because not only am I coming to them with other, let's say, methods of training or different ideas how they could get better, I'm showing them that I'm actually studying game or fight film, right, to see their opponent or see their deficiencies. And then they go, I didn't think about it like that, from a physical standpoint, from a biomechanics standpoint, and how it correlates over into the skill acquisition. So I like to make sure that I have a full understanding of the athlete first and foremost, and then we can start to transition into formulating the plan.
Right. Okay. And then looking at everything and all the tools, all the tech, all the protocols, right? Like noise that I call in fitness or in performance space. Like what is one thing, if you're like, man, if I can knock this out, like get it out, no one ever does it, no one ever hears it, no one ever falls to this trick, what would that be?
From a tech side?
Tech and just performance in general that pisses you off. As soon as you're scrolling through, social media, you see someone say it or do it, and you're like, get that shit off of this.
I would say the biggest issue now would be over-reliance on tech.
Okay.
And letting objective indicators fully take over the training process. You should have some subjective understanding too, as well, of an individual, with yourself too, as a fighter. Right. So I do like these indicators to understand fatigue management and understand performance increases. But I think if somebody relies solely on that, they're not looking at the individual, right? They're not reading their responses. And so you become very robotic in your ability to coach. And so I don't rely solely on tech. I don't rely solely on the data to a degree. I obviously need it, but it's not the end all be all.
Okay.
I still want to rely on my ability to read and to have what we call the art of coaching, right? So I can connect with the individual. Now I can ask them how you're feeling. I'm wearing a Whoop right now, right? Now this isn't the end all be all. When I got here this Friday to do a workshop, I was in the red. Doesn't mean that I couldn't do the work. I was like, it's a day I just sleep.
Quit and right.
You can't do that. You still have to do something.
Right.
And so we give it an understanding of, okay, we're in a bad spot right now based on the tech, but what can we do right now to improve? And maybe it is just mobility work, or maybe it is breath work or meditation or whatever have you, but at least we're doing something.
Okay.
As far as from a progression standpoint, we're not digging them deeper into a hole, but at least they're gaining the confidence that they actually did something. Because with athletes in general, if they're not doing something, they feel like they're not improving.
Right.
So we have to also make sure that they understand that recovery is a part of training. And there's so many ways to do that.
Yeah, and then that's what I say. I tell all our athletes, recovery has been something that's changed, right? The way you do a push-up hasn't really changed. The way you lift hasn't really changed. But the recovery aspect and the mentality behind it. So how have you seen that in the pros in terms of how serious or how much do you promote that?
It's big now. It's better now than it was 5 years ago. With the add-ons with like the UFC Performance Institute and professionals coming into the sport with more of a science background, or let's just say a sport performance background, they're able to identify what's most important. And most of the time, when I got started in this was 2010, 2011, somewhere around there, guys were still doing massive amount of high intensity, high volume work, digging himself deeper into a hole and thinking that more is better.
Right.
Nowadays, with more data, with smarter, more intelligent individuals coming into the sport, what I mean by that is like people that have a background in understanding physiology.
Right.
And so they have the ability to show them what is working, what is not working. And the athletes are getting smarter, right? They're taking the initiative to learn more too as well. I say this all the time. Dustin Poirier has been instrumental in my career, right? He was one of my first fighters in the UFC, and he obviously did great, right? One of the best fighters in the world. When I talk about fighters that really get themselves more, like they educate themselves, more continuous, like he does it all the time. So he's asking me questions about certain things because he wants to know, right? He doesn't just rely on coaches and other individuals. He wants to know himself. And a lot of those fighters that are taking that route are better for it. They're increasing and progressing faster. If you look at Dustin's career 5 years, let's say 7 years ago, right? He was 145, he transitioned to 155. That's when he started to get smarter with his training.
Right.
And then we went on a 7-fight win streak.
And you could even hear it, right? When he interviewed, when he spoke, when they toured, like the things that he was implementing, his mindset was like a complete, change in terms of that stuff.
And we all started to evolve like that. You know, even me being a former fighter. Right. So I understood programming, I understood periodization, but I still trained like that.
Correct.
Even when I knew it. Because it was the thing that everybody did.
Right.
So you go, what are we doing? I know what I'm doing. Why am I doing it like this?
Correct.
Because it's the normal.
Correct.
Right? But when it becomes non-normal and the new normal is better, we take the new normal.
Yeah, there you go. And I always tell people, insanity, we're always saying like, all right, trying to get a different result doing the same thing, but insanity is also, you know what to do, you don't do it.
Sure.
Right. And we're caught up in the past versus now.
I also think that's a form of intelligence, right? So if I learn something and I don't change my behavior, then that's a lack of intelligence on my part.
Right.
So there's fighters that are coming in that are very intelligent. And that's why they're the best in the world, because they know how to connect the dots. They know how to solve the puzzle, right, in real time, because it is almost a mathematical equation in there.
Yeah.
You got to be able to find out what it is that you need to improve upon from a weakness standpoint, from a limiter standpoint, and then you need to hone in on your skills that you already have naturally.
Right.
And as you grow, you just start to evolve and everything comes up together. It's like a vertical integration.
Right. Even as simple as like weight cuts, right? What guys used to do back in the day to now, and what we tell our athletes to the way in, I'm like, you already won the battle. If you can get on that scale and you look good and you feel good versus the other person that's like, man, I'm gonna hope I can get an IV or hope I can hydrate, you already won in terms of that stuff. And that's that knowledge.
The thing with the weight cut thing, I just talked about this earlier. I wish I had the authority to totally like wipe it out completely. You're essentially killing yourself.
Right.
And I've gone through crazy weight cuts myself, cutting weight literally in a Walmart parking lot, beating down sun in a minivan that we rented out to go to the actual venue, blasting the heat up and trying to cut weight with sweats on and Alba.
Right.
And I'm like, what am I doing? Just draining your body of all its natural resources.
Correct. And expecting it to perform.
You don't
within hours or a day, right?
You just don't. You can't come in 100% going through a weight cut. I don't care how much you cut. It doesn't matter. You're still depleting your body. Now, there's some great individuals out there that are really doing it the right way, right? And I think that there's only a handful that truly know how to do it the right way.
Right.
And I think that every fighter should find out that resource. And they're out there, right. But it's still not optimal, right? And we want to be as optimized as possible. And this is where you take you take years off your life to try to be the best performing athlete in your career at one particular point in time. Now, if that is really a performance increaser, I don't think it is. I don't think you have an advantage to my understanding, right? And I have a good understanding. But psychologically, you gain the confidence because you think you're gonna come in bigger and stronger, but that's not always the case.
Correct.
You actually, it may be more detrimental than anything coming in there depleted, especially if you have a rough weight cut, thinking that you're gonna replenish and refuel yourself up to a certain weight. You can overshoot and be even worse off.
Right.
And I've seen that happen plenty of times too. So
yeah, no, I've seen that where we've had a couple of years, I won't name them because I don't want to call them out there, but where they would come to us and, we would tell them, hey, they would come to us, well, you don't carry around that weight. I'm like, yeah, but I'm not a fighter. You are, and you're going to get called in within 3 weeks. these massive cuts, right? They'll come down and they'll go up 40 pounds and expect to be, like, it's like, that just doesn't make any sense, right?
No, when you overshoot, you got to think about it. Like, you want to get to the point where you're walking around at right before, typically it's like the peaking phase of where you started, right? So if you fight at 155, typically you want to get up to maybe 170, 172. If you go anywhere higher than that, then you're going to be sluggish because you're carrying on extra weight.
Right, that you're not used to.
That you're not used to. Yeah, and so your endurance will go down, right? Your mobility probably goes down. You're not as fast, right? So yeah, there's a real science and art behind it. Yeah.
Okay. So I know oftentimes you're probably asked about like what you do with athletes, right?
Sure.
But then in these podcasts where I try to go is like, all right, about you, right? Like you as a male, you in an alpha dominated kind of world, right? So you can't pour to others when you have an empty cup. How do you know, like when you're getting empty, or how do you avoid being empty by your day-to-day like routines? How's that?
Reflection, for me, prayer, and having time to myself, like living in solitude to a degree. I gotta kind of de-stress my body and declutter my mind.
Okay.
So walking has been, something that has been monumental in my approach to like maintaining a solid level of progress. So, and it's funny because now that I'm actually walking, I started running, just for health purposes, not for performance.
Sure.
Now I'm taking on a challenge where I'm doing 100 miles. I'm doing 100 miles for military veterans. I'm putting a ruck on my back and doing 100 miles.
Okay.
So yeah, that extremists come out.
Yeah.
So sometimes
you're always gonna have it on there.
Like I could walk. Man, I could walk a lot. Maybe I should put a bag on my back.
Yeah.
Maybe I should do 100 miles. So yeah, could be detrimental to a degree.
Okay.
But I think, for the most part, it's like making sure you have time for yourself.
Okay.
Quality movement in general, for me, just moving in all different planes of motion and direction helps me open up my mind a little bit more, and also helps me be a better coach because I look at the ability to do things from not only from a human perspective, but also as you drive it into some type of technique, right? So I'm like, okay, this could be good. So I like to almost experiment a little bit on what could be possible for my individuals that I'm working with.
Okay.
And get away from everyone just in my face.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
And now, do you have any like red flags or anything that you've thought? Because to me, I'm always like now looking at intention of prayer, like making it count, not just say.
Yeah.
But it's also then you replay the mistakes you made in your life, and like if you were talking to yourself, they'd be like, man, I would have told you that you're doing the same patterns, right?
Sure.
So have you identified in you or in your fighters something that's so recurring that we as men should be like, that's a red flag, something's up. Something like you got to step back from the grind.
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say that reevaluate your situation. Like for me, I'm always evaluating my responses, and I'm trying to give myself a little bit more time to respond as opposed to just reacting. And if you look at it in a fighting perspective, there's at times you do have to react, obviously, right? But you should still understand why you've done what you've done, or why you did that certain thing, or why you said that certain thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that allows you to, again, if you're intelligent enough, to really understand that may not be the right course of action, right? And so from there, you can catch it in time and redirect it. But you always have to be open to changing the thing that you feel is not the best thing for you.
Right. Yeah, no, and that's what we try to tell with men, or like optimization, right? Because we normalize suboptimal, and then we say, because my bank account's right, because my career's right. Yeah, but personally, you're not.
Yeah.
Your relationship sucks. If you have kids don't know you, right? Or they think you're angry, or you're just so busy. But how do you change that? And you mentioned prayer. So is religion a big part of your day to day?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I'm Catholic as far as that goes, but I mean, anything that you feel that's a higher power, I think that the most important thing you need to have is an understanding of the first cause and why you're here. And so I always look to find guidance in word, in the good word, in order for me to truly identify why I'm doing what I'm doing. And so it's already been written. So there's so many different ways of going about doing things, but you also have to live in virtue. And so I try to find a way to go through certain positions in life with virtue, right? Awesome. And it's been helpful. I mean, I think that that's what every man at least because you're a leader of your household, you're the leader of your family. And so you have to set the example, you know? And for me, I'm glad that I've been able to do that with my family. And I think that it comes down to identifying your own issues and having introspection first.
Right.
Because if you don't know yourself, you can't help others.
Right.
And so, yeah, it takes some time, but once you get it, you know, just stay along that path. Don't veer off.
And how do you think, you know, you mentioned with time, right? Because people are like, man, I don't know how to do it, or it's too far gone. And it's like, well, we know from the Bible, you're never too far gone. God can bring you back from anything. What in your own personal journey, was there a moment? Was it always been like that? Or like what changed in you that you're like, because you've done it multiple times, right? You did it from an athlete to coaching.
Yeah.
And you might have done it from like religion, it's kind of around to like now it's fundamental to my being. Did that happen?
I just saw things just flow in the right direction, the right way, when I was doing the right things, when I was living in virtue. When I was trying to fight against it, everything went wrong. So I'm like, why fight against this?
Right.
Flow with the current and do the right thing and live in accordance to Scripture, in accordance to God. Right. And from there, it opened up doors. I go, okay, something's, and again, if you're intelligent enough,
you see it, right?
You see it.
Yeah.
So you have to identify it and not fight fight whatever you feel is not there. It's really not there if you don't let it be there.
Right.
So I try to clear out my mind in that way. And then again, prayer has always been an instrumental part of my life.
Okay.
And just speaking into existence to a degree, like speaking to him and making sure that I am on the right path. And if it's not the right path, then put something there for me to go to another direction. And and most of the time, that's what happens.
Right.
So yeah.
No, that's awesome. And then I always tell people, and even the host, I don't have none to give, but I usually carry a little Jesus. Jesus
That's
loves
awesome.
me. That
Man,
I
got like
people.
4 or 5 of those.
Yeah, because then it's a kind of reminder
Yeah.
of like, all right, otherwise you forget, right? The grind, but if this becomes a priority, things you're right.
That's awesome. And we didn't speak about this either.
No, we didn't. That's what I was saying. Yeah,
that's awesome.
That's awesome in terms of that. So what's the next evolution? 15 years from now, like what are you changing about yourself, or what are you aspiring to be?
Oh, I'm just trying to be more Christ-like. 100%. I'm just trying to be as pure as I possibly can be. Now, I'm never actually going to be as pure as, as I'm supposed to be, but because we all go through problems, we all have issues, and that's the point. And I think that as long as we can identify it, we can try to be as close to that as possible. Yeah. So whatever happens from there, I'm just going to live my life in accordance to the law and the law that we've been given. And so I think that from there, things will open up. Do right by people, try to help with the talent that God has given you, acquire the skills around the talent, and then you'll live your life with purpose.
Right. And then remember, they're all blessings, right? We always remember the big transformations or the negative things that happen, and often forget the blessings that we have, where we're like, man, I've been blessed, right? Like I've done all this stuff. Like, why am I complaining, right? Because you're always going to be better, more, right? There's always be more attractive, stronger, it's more successful, whatever it might be, but like you're living it. You're having a good life, right?
Like, I think when you start to feel that way, like I'm not doing enough or I should have more, I think you're worrying about outside influence too much, and you got to go inside, and you have to actually have a conversation, not only with yourself, but with a higher purpose.
Right.
And also make sure that you understand that it could actually be worse.
Right.
And so a lot of people don't really understand that. And I count my blessings every day. I'm grateful for the things and the opportunities and the people that I get to converse with. But I also live in grace, so I know that it can be taken away from me in any moment.
Right.
And so I have to make sure I count my blessings.
No, I love that. Yeah, and that's what I was trying to get, right? A lot of times we just put our successes or people are interested, right? But there's a you behind, right? Like everything is making you as successful as you are, and it's the person behind you, your experiences, how you believe, and how you do. So I appreciate jumping on, brother. It's been a good time in terms of that. And by the way, this water is freaking delicious.
Oh yeah, it's good, right?
You know, you were saying it is.
Cool.
You know, a lot of that with the water, you know, it's always about the taste. It's all what they add. And I always, oftentimes, we get it. I'm like, damn, it's decent. But
it's not bad, right?
So yeah.
Cheers, bro. Cheers.
There you go.
There we go.
That's the difference right there. Not just training harder, but training smarter, with intention and with a system. Because what Phil broke down today isn't just for fighters, it's for anyone who wants to perform better, recover faster, and build a body that actually supports the life they're trying to live. The reality is, most people are guessing with their health. Elite performers don't guess, they measure, they adjust, and they execute. And that's exactly what this conversation was about. Phil, I appreciate you coming on and dropping real value today. For everyone listening, if you got something out of this episode, share it with someone who's still training without a plan. Tag us. Let us know what hit. And if you're ready to stop guessing with your health and start treating it like the asset it is, you already know where to find us. We'll see you in the next one.